Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I'm Iain.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to talk about an animated film from director Don Bluth, The Land Before Time, which came out in 1988 and was co-produced by both Steven Spielberg and George Lucas. Spielberg, as we know, would continue to have an affinity for dinosaurs with his later projects like Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
But The Land Before Time, Iain, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows Littlefoot, a Brachiosaurus long-necked dinosaur who is travelling with his family to get to the Great Valley. The world in which they live in is starting to go through some turbulent times, and so they realise they have to get to the Hidden Valley and live out the rest of their days. Along the way, he is separated from his family and left alone to fend for himself, up until he comes across a few other friendly dinosaurs who decide to band with him and make their way to the Great Valley.
This, for its time, is a very dark movie, especially if you think that this is an animated kids movie.
Yeah.
It's very dark. Within the first sort of 20 minutes, they kind of lay it on pretty thick. You get racist dinosaurs.
Yep.
You get to see them sort of living in what you could assume is poverty, where there's this food shortage.
Yep.
And they're sort of all struggling. And they're also dealing with earth shakes. And lots of family members get torn apart. We see lots of dinosaur death. And it seems like a pretty hostile, harsh environment for these sort of quirky, happy sort of dinosaurs.
That's it. Within the first 20 minutes, like we said, we've got all these things going on. But as a child, I never realised it. It was just all stuff in the background. The world was going for all these changes. There's all this food shortage. They're trying to make this massive, long journey. And then you have the shark tooth, the T-Rex, the villain of the movie turn up. And there's this huge battle and Littlefoot loses his mother and the dinosaurs were all separated, and you realise that, wow, as an adult, it's in there, and it's not subtly put in there. It's kind of thrust to you in the first 20 minutes.
One of the most memorable things about this film, when you're looking back at it, is that scene when Littlefoot and his mother are sort of torn apart.
Yeah.
And this gets straight into there with some of the most classic Disney movies, looking at Bambi and perhaps The Lion King as being two of the biggest highlights of losing a parent in a movie. And whenever I think of The Land Before Time, that for me is almost like the symbolic sort of emphasis that this movie's going to give across is about that cycle of life.
Yeah.
Do you remember the way to the Great Valley?
I guess so. But why do I have to know? You're gonna be with me. Mother? Mother?
And then you're just like, kind of want the kids to make their way. You're on the journey with them. They all start to group up. We've got Judith Barsi playing Ducky, the little girl from Jaws the Revenge.
Hello. I said hello. What is your name?
We've got Gabriel, Damon voicing Littlefoot, which, when looking up at this, I thought it was funny to find out that he was the kid who played Hob, the little boy from RoboCop 2. And I'm just like, wow,
It kind of makes it difficult to rewatch The Land Before Time when you know that that's the actor that he turns into.
Mother! It's you! Wait, Mother! Wait!
You look a little out of breath, bitch.
I mean, I love Pat Hingle, who you might realise as Commissioner Gordon from Batman.
Or when he's not running a Dixie Boy truck stop and blowing up trucks with bazookas, he's narrating dinosaur stories.
And that though the Great Valley was far away, and the journey there was perilous, he would have to find his way or the chain of life would be broken.
But the narration just starts off so well. It kind of just, his voice soothes you in.
Completely, especially when something harsh is happening on screen.
Yeah.
The music starts to swell up, and it's very easy to get emotionally carried away with the events that are happening in the film. And his voice sort of comes in and sort of reassures you that everything is okay, that everything is happening for a reason. And he even just kind of just says exactly what's happening on screen.
Yeah.
But it's enough just to take your focus off for a little bit and then get back into the next scene again.
It is nobody's fault. The great circle of life has begun.
It's kind of funny watching it again as an adult, you know, when Littlefoot is hearing the voice of his mother, or he's seeing his own shadow and he thinks it's her. You know, they run that fine line, I find, between religious beliefs and scientific beliefs. You know, we've got talking dinosaurs, but then one of them dies and the spirit comes back to talk to her son.
Well,
you know?
See, when I watched this movie as a kid, I got the impression that it was, you know, the spirit of this dinosaur coming back and talking to her son. It's kind of like how you believe in, you know, as you're a child, you'd be afraid to lose your parent, but you'd imagine that there'd be a spirit form of some kind anyway. But rewatching the film now, it just kind of, the mother's voice is saying the same things that she said to him when she was alive.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, but that's the beauty, I'd say, of this film. I mean, going from a nostalgic point of view, we watched it as kids. If you've never seen this film as a child, you may not enjoy it as an adult. You might just look at the lessons and be like, oh, well, it's stupid. I've seen it better in other films. But you have to remember, this is 1988. You know, not many of the classics that we look at now and take for granted had come out yet. And so Land Before Time, as a child, was one of those first movies to go, look, we're going to teach you these lessons really subtly, you know, and then we're going to lay it on with some cartoony dinosaur rubbish.
The three horns, the spiked tails, the swimmers, the flyers. We never do anything together.
Why?
Well, because we're different.
You might not appreciate the story because it is overly simplistic.
Yeah.
But it does work for children.
Yes.
To see how friendships are formed.
Yeah.
And how, even though they have differences or have clashes, they can still work together to get over their problems.
Yeah.
I mean, that's simplistic, and that's there in almost every single animated form of storytelling. So if you have a problem with that, you can still appreciate this film on its technical level, on its beautiful artwork.
Yes.
All of the backdrops, the scenery, it almost feels alive. Especially the way when the characters are moving and the camera's panning through the scenery with them.
Yeah.
It's almost breathtaking. And it kind of, it's refreshing to go back and watch a film like this and know that it wasn't Pixar, that it wasn't all computer generated, that every single frame in the movie was just beautifully handcrafted.
Yeah, that's what I love about the individual dinosaurs themselves. The characters' voice work, you know, taking that and the animated style and the movements that the dinosaurs go in really work together. Judith Barsi as Ducky, I mean, her yep, yep, yep line is just iconic.
Mine is Ducky. Yep, that is what it is. Yep, yep, yep.
And just seeing her kind of bounce around, you know, being the kind of comedy relief up until Petrie turns up. And Petrie, the little flyer, is even more classic because he wants to fly, he just can't bring himself to it.
He's definitely the biggest comic relief character in the whole movie, and kind of reminded me of Batty from Fern Gully. I mean, there's a lot of bird characters in a lot of sort of Disney movies as well that are there just for the comic relief, especially after a poignant moment.
Yeah, and then you've got Spike, the lazy ass dinosaur. He literally doesn't say anything throughout the film, but when you see his face just looking at the camera and he's got those doe eyes and he's just like licking his lips, you feel in a way, even though he's bigger than the rest of the dinosaurs, they need to protect him. Mm-hmm. And so they're all constantly working together to protect each other. Apart from Sarah, the three-horn, who even now I just think is a bitch.
I'm taking the easy way for once. But it's the wrong way! Who says? My mother! Then she was the stupid long neck too.
Well, she is overly brave.
Yeah.
And, you know, she's, on the surface level, she always has that sort of attitude. But that's because she's hiding underneath all of that she is scared and that she is lonely.
Yeah.
And she just... Well, the narrator even tells you exactly what she's going through, and the film does a good job of showing it. And it's built in also as a narrative point of storytelling where you can have sort of Littlefoot having a confrontation with one of his friends, basically, which causes the group in the midpoint of the movie to decide which one's right and where should they go next.
Yeah.
So, but they all come together as friends, and that is basically what the film delivers on, is that forming of friendships, especially from outside of your own social class or your own race, even. I find it hard to have any one particular favourite scene in the film. There's so many parts to enjoy, and it's also worth bearing in mind that the film is only an hour long.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We said when we watched it that it actually felt longer as a child. It was hard to believe that it was only an hour long. But there are also lots of notes, and there's other edits of the movie that were about 15 minutes longer, which included a lot more graphic violence, especially with the sharp tooth. But the scene, the sort of climactic sort of action scene in the film, I'd say it was always my most memorable part, just because there was potential. You know, some of these dinosaurs weren't going to make it because that sharp tooth, that T-Rex, was actually frightening.
Yeah.
It's constantly snapping its teeth just inches away from them, and you know it's not messing around because it doesn't talk. There's no reasoning with it. It's just a carnivorous eating machine.
Yeah.
So all of the scenes with that T-Rex in were tense, and that image of the T-Rex was sort of the image that I took with me all those years later, queuing up as a child to go and see Jurassic Park. It was that was, for me, it was that sort of circle of life.
My favourite scene, given in mind the fact that I do love this film, and you know it's a classic from my childhood, I could pick out any number of brilliant scenes involving the characters, but the one scene that always makes me laugh, and is my favourite, is where there is a group of small flyers all fighting over a berry, and their mother gives them all a berry to have, and as they're trotting off, one flyer sees Littlefoot looking unhappy because of obviously his mother's death, and he drops the berry and he just tries to slide it towards Littlefoot. And it's the fact that they put in quite a bit of life, quite a bit of animation into this one lowly character, and then he's just gone. And it's just like, oh, Littlefoot.
I do like all of those sort of small moments where the camera just follows just random dinosaurs that have nothing to do with the plot. You never see or hear from them again, but they are just in there in the background just to bring this world to life.
Yes,
so
definitely.
I definitely recommend The Land Before Time. The first movie. If you don't know this, there are 12 sequels to this film.
Yeah.
All straight to VHS and DVD. I think the last release, the 13th Land Before Time movie, came out just in 2007. And since then, there's also been a TV series, which I believe also got cancelled after 26 episodes. Avoid every single one of them. Because, as you know, if you were watching them as you were maturing, you would have noticed that you were too old for this shit.
Yeah.
And that these movies got progressively worse and were aimed, by the end, for toddlers. For children that couldn't even speak yet.
Yeah.
The kind of dark tones and themes and harsh lessons from the first movie just become so watered down. Avoid all of those movies, but the first movie it's an art piece. It's a masterpiece. It's beautiful storytelling. Brilliant soundtrack by James Horner.
Yeah.
You're used to seeing him do music for something like Aliens, where it's all action and suspense, but his gentle tones in this film just carry you all the way through it.
I definitely recommend this movie. If you've never seen it, you know, and you're willing on sitting down and just spending an hour traveling with a bunch of dinosaurs, pick up a copy. At the same time, it will open up your eyes to some other Don Bluth classics like Thumbelina, An American Tale, American Tale 2 with Five Going West, and one of my all-time favorites as well, Titan After Earth. Definitely check out Land Before Time.
So even if you're not a big fan of The Land Before Time, definitely check out the director Don Bluth, because he has done some fantastic films.
Yippity-dee-doo-doo-doo-doo-da. Don't step on a crack or you'll fall and break your back.
Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
Don't lose your way with